There's a truth every trader eventually faces. It's not about strategy. It's not about signals or indicators or secret systems. It's about the space between your losses and how you meet them. Because every loss tests more than your balance. It tests your breath, your focus, your ability to stay conscious when your instincts beg you to react. Most traders try to fight their emotions, but you can't fight the ocean. You can only learn how to breathe beneath the waves. This episode is about that breath, about the 90 seconds that separate breakdown from clarity. It's not a technique, it's a reset, a way to return to the version of yourself that trades with awareness, not impulse. So find a quiet space, put down your phone, and listen not just to these words, but to what rises inside you between them. Because in those spaces, you'll meet the part of you that never loses. Welcome to Mind Over Markets. There's a moment every trader knows. The screen turns red, your stop loss hits, and in that instant, everything inside you shifts. Your breath tightens, your shoulders pull forward. Your mind begins to whisper, "Why did I take that trade? Maybe I should get back in. I can fix this." That's the moment when logic leaves the room, not because you're weak, but because you're human. You see, your brain doesn't know the difference between a financial threat and a physical one. To your nervous system, a loss on the screen feels like a punch in the chest. The same circuits that once helped our ancestors survive danger now ignite when a candle closes against us. The amygdala, the small almond-shaped structure buried deep in your brain, lights up like a flare. It floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate rises, your breathing shortens, your body prepares for a fight that doesn't exist. You're not looking at the chart anymore. You're looking for safety, for control, for redemption. And that's how traders lose twice. Once to the market, and again to themselves. Most traders think they lose because of bad analysis, because they didn't spot a level or missed a setup. But more often they lose because they never learned to recover. You can have the best system in the world and still destroy it in one impulsive moment because you never trained your mind to reset. A single loss can pull you into a spiral. You begin to chase. You start justifying entries that don't exist. You make decisions not to win, but to feel right again. But here's the truth. You cannot fight emotion with more emotion. You can only transcend it through awareness. When you lose a trade, you don't just lose money. You lose psychological equilibrium. You lose presence. You lose the invisible space between stimulus and response, and that space is everything. That's where rationality lives. That's where composure begins. That's where every great trader operates from the space between. And that space can be recovered, not in a day, not through meditation retreats, but in 90 seconds. 90 seconds to break the chemical loop of reactivity. 90 seconds to return from the amygdala to awareness. 90 seconds to remind your body that you are safe. Because trading isn't about control over the market. It's about control over the self that faces the market. And the most professional traders don't avoid emotion, they know how to reset it. What I'm about to show you is simple. It doesn't require technology. It doesn't depend on your broker, your chart, or your capital. It only depends on you and your willingness to pause for 90 seconds. You might think 90 seconds can't change much, but when you understand how the brain and body work, you'll realize that 90 seconds is all it takes to change everything. So, the next time you take a loss and that familiar surge of frustration rises through your chest, don't rush to the next trade. Don't open another chart. Don't check your phone. Just stop. Because that pause is the beginning of mastery. The 90-second reset begins with something most traders forget they have: their breath. When a loss hits, the breath collapses. It becomes short, shallow, defensive. The body thinks it must act, but trading is not combat. It is clarity. So the first step is to breathe. Inhale slowly through your nose. Let the air fill the base of your lungs. Hold for a heartbeat. Then release through the mouth as if letting go of the need to control. Again. 4 seconds in. 4 seconds hold. 4 seconds out. 4 seconds stillness. This rhythm is not magic. It's biology. It signals to your nervous system, I'm safe. Each cycle draws blood back from the fight or flight centers into the prefrontal cortex, the seat of awareness. In less than a minute, chemistry begins to shift. Cortisol falls. Perspective returns. When the breath slows, time slows with it. And in that slowing, you can see again. Now, posture. After a loss, notice what your body does. It folds. Shoulders cave. Eyes drop toward the screen. The spine curves inward, as if to protect the heart. But emotion follows motion. So change the motion. Lift your spine until it feels alive again. Pull the shoulders back, not with pride, but with openness. Let your chest rise enough for the lungs to expand fully. Feel your weight settle evenly through your seat or your feet. This is the posture of presence. You are not resisting the market. You are receiving it with composure. Every signal the body sends shapes the signals the mind receives. When you sit like a loser, you think like one. When you sit like a learner, curiosity replaces fear. That's why posture matters. It's not about dominance. It's about alignment between body, breath, and awareness. Now the final step command. Once the body is steady and the breath is deep, speak. Out loud if you can. Because words anchor awareness. Say, losses are tuition. My edge remains intact. I trade probabilities, not emotions. Next trade, fresh mind. Feel the sound vibrate through the chest. Each word is a signal to your subconscious that the storm has passed, that you are no longer the child reacting, but the adult deciding. This is not affirmation, it is recalibration. When you issue a calm command, you reclaim authority over your internal state. You remind the primitive brain that the pilot is still here. 90 seconds, breath, posture, command. That's all it takes to reset the system. Most traders think discipline is built through willpower, but willpower is brittle when chemistry is chaotic. Discipline grows from regulation, from knowing how to bring yourself back to zero after the storm. Every time you perform this 90-second ritual, you teach your nervous system a new truth, that loss does not mean danger, that a red candle is not a tiger in the bushes, that you can experience pain without panic. And slowly, trade by trade, you evolve from a reactive mind to a responsive one. Imagine it. You take a loss. You feel the sting. But instead of spiraling, you breathe. You realign. You speak calm into the chaos. And 90 seconds later, you're back clear-centered, deliberate. That's what separates a professional from an amateur. Not strategy, not capital, but recovery. Because the market rewards emotional agility. It punishes emotional rigidity. Breath brings flexibility. Posture brings presence. Command brings clarity. Together, they rebuild the bridge between the emotional brain and the logical one. You may still feel frustration. You may still feel regret. That's human. But those feelings no longer own you. They simply move through like waves across the surface of a deeper ocean. Underneath, the water is still. That stillness is your edge. The mind and body are not separate. They move as one organism, one rhythm, one signal loop. What you feel in your chest becomes what you think in your head. And what you think in your head becomes what your hands do on the keyboard. Every trade you take begins in biology, not logic. Every decision is filtered through emotion before it reaches analysis. This is why the same setup feels different after a win and unbearable after a loss. You are not trading the market. You are trading your internal state. Neuroscience has a word for what happens after a loss amygdala hijack. The amygdala, designed to keep you alive, overrides the rational prefrontal cortex. It floods your system with survival chemistry. It steals your clarity and replaces it with urgency. But here's the thing most traders never realize. That chemistry only lasts 90 seconds unless you feed it. Every time you replay the loss in your mind, every time you open another chart, every time you say, I have to make it back, you restart the clock. You keep the amygdala hijack alive. You stay stuck in survival. But if you stop, if you breathe, if you sit still, that wave passes. The chemicals clear. The body returns to baseline. That's the science of the reset. When the breath slows, the vagus nerve activates the bridge between brain and body. Heart rate drops. The prefrontal cortex comes back online. Perspective returns. It's like turning the lights back on in a dark room. The chart hasn't changed, but you have. That's why the 90-second reset is not just a trick, it's neurological hygiene. It's how you keep your decision-making clean. Think of every loss as emotional residue. If you don't clear it, it builds up trade after trade, day after day, until your decisions are no longer fresh. You're no longer responding to the market now. You're reacting to the ghosts of the past. Every reset is a form of emotional detox. It's not about forgetting the loss. It's about neutralizing its charge. The best traders aren't cold. They're clear. They feel deeply, but they don't drown. They've trained themselves to come back to zero again and again. That's what this practice does. Each time you breathe through the loss, you rewire the association between losing and danger. You teach your nervous system that pain is information, not threat. Over time, the trigger fades. The chart becomes just data again. A loss becomes feedback, not failure, and you become unshakable. But integration matters. Knowing this isn't enough. You must practice it. Make the 90-second reset a ritual. After every losing trade, before every new entry pause, close your eyes, one cycle of breath, sit tall, whisper your command, don't rush it. Don't turn it into another technique to fix yourself. Let it be sacred. Let it be human. If you can reset after loss, you can reset after anything after a bad day, a missed opportunity, a mistake. Because life, like trading, will always hand you losses. But it's not the loss that defines you. It's how fast you return to presence. That's emotional mastery. That's risk management at the deepest level, not the one that protects your capital, but the one that protects your consciousness. When you master that, you realize that trading is not a battle to be won, but a mirror to be read. Every candle reflects your state. Every loss reveals your attachment. Every reset reclaims your freedom. And freedom is the true profit. There comes a point in every trader's journey when you realize the market isn't your enemy. It isn't testing you. It isn't punishing you. It's simply reflecting you. Every red candle, every false breakout, every drawdown, they're mirrors. They reveal what's already inside, your impatience, your fear, your need for certainty. The market doesn't make you emotional. It only exposes the emotion you brought with you. That's why the real work is never just about finding better entries. It's about finding a better inner stance. Because when your inner stance changes, the same chart looks different. You see structure where you once saw chaos. You see opportunity where you once saw threat. That's the hidden power of the 90-second reset. It's not about control, it's about clarity. It reminds you that between impulse and action, there is always a breath. And in that breath lives your freedom. Imagine this. You've just taken a loss. Your instinct is to click, to chase, to fix. But instead you close your eyes. You inhale. You feel the air rise and fall. You let your shoulders drop. And you whisper your command steady and low. Losses are tuition. My edge remains intact. Next, trade fresh mind. In that moment, you return home, back to the space of awareness, back to the calm observer behind the screen. No chart can touch you there. No loss can define you there, because in that space, you are not reacting to the market. You are relating to it. You begin to understand something profound. Trading isn't about predicting price. It's about managing state. It's not about winning every trade. It's about remaining conscious through them all. A trader who cannot reset is a trader who slowly burns. But a trader who can becomes unstoppable. Not because he never loses, but because loss never lingers. That's emotional mastery. That's presence in motion. And the irony is, when you stop fearing loss, your performance improves. You no longer sabotage setups to protect your ego. You take trades from clarity, not from need. Your edge has room to breathe. This is what separates the professionals from the perpetual learners. It's not knowledge, it's nervous system regulation. It's the ability to remain centered when everything around you isn't. Every great trader knows this. They might use different words: detachment, discipline, state management, but they're all describing the same inner quiet, the same sacred pause between emotion and execution. The 90-second reset is your gateway to that quiet. It's small enough to do anywhere, powerful enough to change everything. And over time, you'll notice something subtle. Losses will still come. Pain will still appear, but it will no longer hijack you. You'll feel it move through like a wave that rises and falls while you remain the ocean beneath it. That's when you'll realize you were never meant to control the market. You were meant to master the self that faces it. So the next time you lose, don't reach for revenge. Reach for your breath. Straighten your spine. Speak your command. And let the 90 seconds do their work. Then open your eyes. Look at the chart again, not as a battlefield, but as a mirror. Ask it, what are you showing me about myself today? Because that's where growth begins, not in profit, in awareness. And when awareness deepens, the market stops being chaos. It becomes a teacher, a constant conversation between your psychology and probability, between emotion and edge, between fear and flow. Each trade becomes an opportunity to practice stillness. Each loss a reminder to return home. And when you live like that, trading becomes something different. It becomes meditation in motion, presence disguised as performance, a spiritual practice wearing the mask of finance. That's the hidden truth most never see. So breathe, sit tall, command your mind back to center, and trade from that place, the quiet place inside that never loses. Because the true edge was never the system. It was always the state. If you've listened this far, you already understand what most traders never do. That recovery is more powerful than prediction. That presence is rarer than profit. The 90-second reset is simple, but simplicity is deceptive. It's a doorway not to control, but to calm, to the awareness that no chart can shake and no loss can steal. You are not your trades. You are the awareness behind them. And awareness doesn't lose. So the next time the screen turns red and your mind begins to spin, remember you are always one breath, one posture, one command away from equilibrium. That is the real edge, the one that endures. If this message resonated with you, share it with another trader who needs to breathe again. And until next time, trade consciously, trade patiently, trade from presence. This is Mind Over Markets.